I almost want to punch that guy in the face just because, like, hi guys, I'm Michael Rosehart, and this is
Matt McKeever.
And we are Mike
and Matt
on Fire.
Nice.
So we're talking about debriefing an article that came across my Facebook feed a couple of days ago, and it's about the title is Millennial buys Sydney apartment by giving out $4 coffees for just 547 years. And it's a bit satirical in the title and poking a bit at millennials, but really the essence of the article is about a comment that Tim Gerner made about avoiding coffees, things like Starbucks and those small incidental purchases, so you can be able to afford to get your foot on the property ladder.
And so it's something we're very familiar with in the early retirement community. People frequently call it the latte factor, right? I don't know if it was like Your Money or Your Life that popularized it, but I think that was one of the resources that frequently mentions it. But just the idea that small purchases can really add up and snowball into large quantities of money. And so I guess we'll just dive into it then?
Yeah. Do you want to just kind of read the first little bit there?
Yeah, so I guess just in general, so millennials countrywide have flooded into the property market today following advice from property tycoon Tim Gerner to stop buying coffees in order to get your foot on the property ladder. I feel like such an idiot, said one millennial standing outside an auction this afternoon. Here I was thinking it was stagnating wages coupled with rapidly inflating house prices were the cause of my housing problems, when all this time it was the coffee. Boy, I can't believe I never thought of that. And so then just when looking at the property market, they kind of talk about how in Sydney, prices are going up like $5,000 a week for some of these properties. It's a very hot market, not unlike the Canadian real estate market as well. So there is parallels right there to us in our own backyard. And so I think this is a frequent theme with millennials again. I think probably gonna be a frequent theme of a lot of our videos and stuff. It's just this people's expectations not being reality, and then instead of trying to alter their expectations or their actions, they find scapegoats to point at and blame, right? And so I'll take a swing at this too. That quote that you read, it's like my third time reading it. Every time I hear it, just inside of me, I just want to I almost want to punch that guy in the face just because no, okay, so I won't do that. I'm gonna be the good guy that I am, so many people I talk to say it's not the small purchases, it's not the $4 coffee. In this quote you can hear these kind of like, oh wow, I can't believe I didn't think of that, like almost making fun of the fact that you should avoid those purchases, as he stands in line, I'm sure, at the at the coffee house. And his point there on stagnating wages coupled with rapidly inflating house prices. Okay, yes, house prices are increasing. Absolutely.
There is still affordability in almost every market. You just have to look and know where to find it. As a cost per square foot, real estate isn't all that expensive, about more expensive than it was 50 years ago.
Absolutely, and frequently, the reason most of us live in Australia or North America is because our ancestors emigrated for various reasons, some of them economically based, such as overcrowding and expensive lifestyle. Like the cost of living was a lot more expensive, and England or Central Europe versus emigrating to Australia, Canada, the US and all that. And so I think it comes back to that we also have to be open to being kind of fluid with where we live, right? If you literally can't get ahead in Sydney, why would you want to live in Sydney? I mean, if you're literally telling me it's impossible as a millennial to buy a house in Sydney, and you believe that in your heart, then why would you want to live in Sydney if you want to be a homeowner? I'm kind of taking this a different angle, I know. Yeah. You absolutely can be a homeowner in Sydney. Yeah. I don't even know the market at all, but guaranteed you can as a millennial. I bet you even know a millennial if you're from Sydney that owns a home, right? Look out to your huge network of people. I bet at least one of them has.
Yeah, I mean, there is always opportunity everywhere. Maybe the market is so expensive that you can't be a homeowner in downtown Sydney, right near your work. Maybe that's just not possible. Here's the thing, I think the piece that, and this is actually probably one of the traits I think that we'll get at throughout Mike and Matt on Fire. You're going to see this fluidity and this adaptability as being one of the KSFs, or key success factors, to being financially independent, to being successful in real estate, and in your chase for financial independence. You have to be able to adapt. If we come into a recession, for instance, both of us would adapt our lifestyle quickly. To be able to weather any type.
Absolutely. If tomorrow the City of London came out with a $10,000 per unit rental licensing fee, we would pivot. We wouldn't just sit there and let everything fall apart around us into shambles, right? Like, you'd either fight it, you'd move, you'd liquidate, you would do something. And so this idea that, and you'll find like all kinds of these articles on probably The Chaser or The Onion where they're tongue-in-cheek and making fun of millennials and kind of the perspective that the world's against us. And so instead of like just I guess instead of really applauding this sort of negativity and this poor me, I think it's much more effective rather than spend all day writing angry internet articles and commenting on angry internet articles to look around you. Find a millennial if you're from Sydney that did buy a house, and then figure out how they do it and try and reverse engineer that. I know some people are gonna be like, oh, their parents gave it to them, blah, blah. Fine, find a different millennial. Keep looking until you find someone. If literally no one's ever done it, then you probably do have to come to a decision point. But I don't think that that's ever going to be the case in most of these, oh, I can't afford to buy a house.
Excuse-itis,
yeah,
right? It's like,
absolutely.
Everyone's like, oh, I can't do that because, well, the reason he has that is because he has a good job. Or the reason he has this property and I can't is because, oh, well, his parents helped him out. Or his grandfather gave him a loan or this or that. Or other excuse that just makes it not possible for me. And I think that's a really easy front to throw up and like, oh, I can't do that because of this. And I hate I can't. Like, I don't ever want my daughter to say, I can't do something. It's maybe I don't want to do something. I'm choosing not to do that right now, or just the world is ripe with opportunity, and things are within our control more than we like to give credit for. There is usually a path. It might not be an easy path. It might be straight uphill. You might have to live really frugally in a small apartment in downtown Sydney for 4 years to save if that's really what you want to get that down payment.
And the key is figure out, is that really what you want, or is that just your expectation, right? Like, I think so many people could alter, tweak things in order to get a great substitute for what they've pegged as being the only solution to their problem, right? And so, do you have to live in downtown Sydney? Does it turn out like you could get a transfer to, I don't know, Australian Melbourne or some other city, a smaller community?
Or find a new job entirely, a new company.
And like if your field only allows, or could you potentially virtually commute, right? Are you able to
telecommuting? Huge.
And so there's all these different substitutes that could result in almost the exact same effect you're looking for without having just that one solution. Because if you look at a problem and you can only see one possible solution, you're going to really hem yourself into you have no alternatives, right?
There's a lot of like rigid structure and like a lack of flexibility, I think, in the way that people think about problems
absolutely.
Today. Matt's super creative. I know a lot of the deals that I've heard you've taken on. You're a super creative guy, and I like to think I'm a little bit creative at times too. Creativity, fluidity, adaptability. If you're not creative, you're not going to be able to see a different solution to a problem, right? So it's opening your mind to different possibilities, not closing your mind off to, hey, I could just get rid of cable and reduce my cell phone bill a bit and cut out the Starbucks, and boom, all of a sudden I've freed up several $100s a month that could be invested and turned into a down payment in as little as 3 years.
So we didn't really discuss this, but this kind of came up to me. I think this would be a good idea. Let's workshop how we would try and buy a house in an expensive city like downtown Toronto or Sydney. Okay, so like one of the first things that comes to mind for me is like, obviously you're going to need a down payment. So you're going to have to figure out a way to save up money. But then how can you reduce the overhead related to that? Once you do get to the point where you're able to purchase the property, well, you can take on roommates, you can subdivide it into multiple units. Like, there's all sorts of alternatives that you could Airbnb rooms, right? Like, you could turn essentially this downtown house into kind of like an Airbnb hotel or, and so the problem is that I think people just like look at a problem and it feels too big, and so they're like, I can't eat this elephant in one bite, so it's impossible, rather than really parsing it out. So the ways to save money, like making fun of this latte factor and stuff, I get. If you go out today and you just buy one Starbucks coffee this month, no, is that really going to impact you? No, but the thing is, it is a snowball. It builds upon it, right? Like, that is still technically $4 less you have to allocate towards this house. And you just claimed this house was the most important thing to you. So is it, or is Starbucks? Like, which is the most important thing? Figure that out, and then start reverse engineering how to save up that money.
I think it's a great point, and I like the workshop idea because, when I was thinking about when I was going to quit my job in March, and move towards like taking a jump at financial independence and being a full-time real estate entrepreneur, I played this game and I would workshop it in my head often, where what happens if tomorrow I had nothing? Now I'm back down to 0. I think there's a great article. I don't know if I think it's Mr. Ray Mustache writes an article on if I had nothing tomorrow, what would happen? And it's like in 5 years he'd be exactly where he was before.
Yeah, and often you'd even be further ahead simply because you have the skill set already, right? You have the knowledge, and so the key is like develop that skill set. Don't just go out and play the lottery and like cross your fingers, or like don't take out a life insurance policy on a family member just in the hopes that you're going to hit it rich. Like these concepts that I see people trying to do, these get rich quick things. Same with like all sorts of network marketing and MLM structures. Like the problem is, okay, what ends up happening is people decide like, okay, I do need a side hustle, I do need to make money, but instead of really spending time to figure out how to increase their income, they find the first solution, which is some shady MLM where they tell you, oh, sell this juice, but don't drink the juice, you're only supposed to sell it. And it's not even really about the juice, it's about the network. And
using a multi-tier multi-level marketing Invigoron system, multi-level.
Like all that stuff is just the wrong approach to this. I'm not even sure how I got on that tangent. Sorry.
I'll try to rein us back here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think the point that we're getting at here, right, is people, I think in our society, millennials especially, they want to hear the easy answer.
Yes. They
want that quick win. They want to know they're going to be rich. Boom, boom. Hey, I can give you guys a promise right now, and like I'm sure Matt can back this up. He hasn't heard what I'm going to say yet, but if you want to be wealthy, if you wanted to retire, and you really wanted it, I don't care what market you're in, I don't care where you live, I don't care, as long as you have a job and you're working full time, anyone can retire in 5 years, right? Jacob Lund-Fisker makes that argument.
Absolutely.
I was able to do it in 5 years. I'm living proof. I could do it again if we workshopped and I had nothing. Let's say I lived in Toronto right now, and Toronto's one of the most expensive housing markets. Getting close to Vancouver. Let's workshop that for a second. If I had no money and I was that millennial guy from that video we shot, a little while ago, let's say I had a full-time job. We'll make that assumption, and I'm making kind of an average Canadian wage, 50 or 60 grand for Toronto. It's not bad.
Sure. I got a feeling some people might even complain about that. Let's call it 50 for easy round
Let's call it 50,
numbers.
which is like 35 in London. If you adjust. First thing I would do, right, is get my budget, right? I create a budget, because let's assume that I don't budget anymore, but I used to when I started to get into the habit of being really frugal and learning to see what I was spending. I would start with a budget, and I would say, okay, here's what I'm bringing in net of taxes. You'd optimize things.
And so the key is like you're really going to focus on the big areas first. And so I think that's why sometimes people will complain about these latte factor ideas, because you do want to focus on the big things first, because those are where the big wins are. But then once you get those big wins under control, you need to keep going and digging deeper. So the big wins first are, if you're living in Toronto, making $50,000 a year, okay, let's figure out how to live for free or next to it, right? That's the big thing. Michael's touched upon it on an earlier video, but the idea of essentially renting out a large house and then subletting by rooms or Airbnb in those rooms would be a great alternative. And absolutely you could create a situation where you could live for free and your landlord would still be happy. I know some people are gonna be like, oh, but the landlord would never prove it. No, absolutely the landlord would, and here's why. Because he's only gonna have to deal with one tenant, he's only collecting from one person, and as long as you're being respectful of his property, he or she's honestly not gonna care. So okay, we got the housing situation taken care of. You're gonna live with roommates, just accept it, because you want to retire in 5 years.
It's a small bit of pain for so much gain, right?
Absolutely.
You're living for nothing. Your housing cost is zero.
Okay, transportation. Oh, you live in Toronto, which has amazing public transportation compared to London, Ontario. So boom, we got that covered.
Or live close to work.
Either or. But
boom, you walk.
We're probably talking like $100, $200 a month tops, transit pass, maybe the occasional Uber. Boom, we got that covered.
If it was me, it'd be zero. I'm cheap.
But okay, so still we're keeping it very lean so far. And now we got food. And so you're simply not going to eat out a lot, right? Because it's going to be a lot easier. You're going to buy big staples and big quantities.
The cost of groceries is not that much more. I used to frequent Toronto once a week with my job, so I spent a lot of time in Toronto, and I'd have to go there for weeks at a time, sometimes for workshops. And what I found is that the cost of groceries is maybe 5% higher. So the cost of food is, I live with a family of 3 on like $300 a month. You probably live on something similar. It's a very small percentage of $50,000 income. Like less than 10% is food. If your housing's almost nothing, you've spent almost none of your salary so far. So where's the rest of it going?
So now we're talking about being able to save massive amounts. Okay, at time it goes to taxes. Fine, but we're going to assume you're a first-time home buyer. So
Does it really go to taxes? Like, I know my average tax is like
Well, you're still
in the
going to be like
teens.
20%,
Yeah.
say. But so like,
With RSP contribution and
Yeah,
some of the
so-
things, you can shelter quite a bit.
yeah, so because you're a first-time home buyer, you're going to plow a bunch of money into your RSP, and you're going to get the tax refund based off of that. So again, you're able even to game the system a bit and reduce the total net tax you're paying.
Yeah.
And the first 25K you're going to be able to grab from your RSP and put that towards your down payment for your home too.
Yep. Rent is also a write-off, I believe, as well. And so if you're the main person on the lease and your lease is $2,500 on a 5-bedroom apartment and you're renting the other 4 rooms out, you could maybe write off a large percentage of that, get a nice Trillium rebate as if your income is low enough. There are like different things you could play
Yeah,
to get
there's
your,
all sorts of minutiae you can
average
get
tax
into, but like
down
I think
low.
literally there in a 5-minute conversation, we planned out a very frugal lifestyle that almost anyone could replicate and get ahead financially within 5 years. I think you'd be shocked with what you could save, particularly then if you invested it, maybe if you developed a little side hustle, something along that lines.
Side hustle to increase the income is definitely key to
Yeah.
cover the. You could live just off your side hustle.
Yeah, and
I lived
those
off my
are some of
side
the
hustle.
best situations, right? Yeah, where you're keeping everything you're earning at your day job and setting aside.
Since I was 22, I've lived off my side hustle, guys. I used my real estate portfolio, even when I only had a couple of properties, because I live so frugally, to support my entire lifestyle. So Elise and I saved our entire salaries for down payments to buy more properties. Really quickly, we became financially independent. Because if you look at the numbers, if you've seen some of the simple, shocking math,
Yeah.
the 5 years makes sense, because if you de-engineer, you're living on 10% of your salary. All you need to do is replicate 300 times your monthly spending. If your monthly spending is very low, not only are you saving really quickly, but the amount you need to save is so low. It just is. It's a win-win-win.
So yeah, and so essentially that's why this whole concept of the latte factor is important, is simply that the small things do add up, right? Like, money's money. So sure, saving $500, $1,000 a month on your living situation, your shelter, great, that's awesome, that's a huge win. But if you're also able to save $500 to $1,000 on personal spending a month, that's the exact same huge win. It doesn't matter. And so, okay, maybe there's a bunch more thoughts that need to be put into that reducing, right? Like, okay, I can no longer go to Starbucks, I can't go out for drinks on Thursday, I can't, that's fine, but a lot of those
You could still go out for drinks, but maybe just get one
well,
drink.
you can choose, but at the same time, you can often still get the same effect and without the same cost, right? Like, instead of going to Starbucks to meet someone for coffee, you invite them over for coffee, you invite them over for drinks instead of going out for drinks, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of going to an expensive movie, you have people over to watch a movie. Like, there's so many substitutes that are still going to end up getting the same net benefit to you.
Same quality of life
yeah,
for
exactly.
half the cost. That's what I've always been about, that, is finding the same car insurance for half.
And that's what the whole point of these latte factor type things are, is that it's about reducing the spending on the same quality of life. It's not about living in poverty. It's not about really sacrificing. Like, neither of us really consider our lives to be a sacrifice. It's just an adjustment to our perspective on what our standard of living should look like. So I think that probably covers this article from the Chaser about the latte factor. The latte factor is important, I think.
Definitely. People in Toronto that I know, some of them spend several $100s a month, several $1,000s a year, just on a $4 Starbucks every day if you do the math. And then they go out for drinks after work, and it's $25. They do that 4 times a week, 3 days a week. They eat at home. Boom! They just spent like $1,000 a month on eating out.
And it's not even like, I think it's really easy for us to project it upon these, Toronto urban millennials that have all these expenses.
Great point.
I also know truck drivers that at every pit stop they stop over at, like, they buy a couple candy bars and a coffee or a cola, and it's like, spending that $10, $20 a day on junk food potentially, that adds up a lot too, right? It's not just like, I guess I just don't want to give the image of just like, the extreme hipster sitting there and sipping their latte. Like, it's all of us, and we all have different factors, right? Same with the comic book nerd that goes every Wednesday and spends $50 on his pull list, right? Like,
or the trades guy who buys his new tools all the time.
It always needs, it just always needs the fancy new looking tools. So it's not just urban millennials that we're picking on. We're picking on all of us.
All of Canadians need a slap in the face.
We can all step up our game.
If you want to be on fire, there's sacrifices you have to make. And our position, I think, here is that these sacrifices with the right substitutes can feel like almost no sacrifice at all.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to plug while we're on the same topic of talking about how we become financially independent in 5 years, right? Or something like that. a lot of people that I follow on YouTube and I follow on Facebook, a lot of the mentors that I started learning from around real estate online, and a lot of the blogs that I was reading around growing the top line, right? So growing your revenue and your income.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing those guys don't focus on, like that they miss, is focusing also on the expense line, right? So if you look at your income statement, you know, as a CPA, that it's not just about the income, it's also about the spending. And in fact, like, if you look at financial independence, saving $500 is equivalent to earning $1,000 almost. Because not only are you saving an extra $500 a month more, but you need that much less to retire.
Yeah, and you're reducing all future expenses, right?
Bingo.
And that's the huge thing there. But yeah, absolutely. It's all about growing the gap, right? Like that's
growing
a term
the gap.
you constantly use.
Mind the gap. You guys have heard me say that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's it for this. Tell us what you guys are doing down in the comment section below to mind your gap. Are you focusing on the big wins, the little wins, just taking whatever win you can get? Let us know. And I guess we never talked about, we kind of need like a signature sign off now too, that we have a signature intro.
Yeah. Mike and Matt are on fire.
She's lit!
Let it burn. I don't know, let's think of something. I don't know what the topic of fire. Or don't let it burn, I guess. Don't let your couch burn.
Tell us what our outro slogan should be, because we're not creative people.
Yeah, we'll vote on whatever you guys put out there.
All right, until next time, I'm Matt McKeever, and this is
Michael Rosard, and we are Mike
and Matt
on fire.
Nice. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys. It's getting better.
Yeah.